everyone, please welcome VP of Customer Experience, Slack, Rayl.
Hey everybody, thanks for coming. I appreciate you hanging out with us these last 2 days at Frontiers. I hope you've had a great time. We really appreciate you being here. We know you have a lot of work to do at a lot of companies, and especially all of you. I know you're here where you could be helping your customers. So I deeply appreciate it. Thank you very much. My name is Rayl. I am VP of Customer Experience at Slack. And this is going to seem super obvious, but I cannot imagine doing this job that I do without Slack, no matter where I happen to be working. It's the lifeblood of our team. It determines our success or failure as an organization. And this is why I'm excited to talk to you today about how Slack is going to empower your companies to unlock better customer service with faster connected teams. So, before we get started, some tactics. We're going to be hosting a Q&A at the end of this session with our 2 customers from Nordstrom and Zendesk. So throughout this, you can actually submit your questions. So starting now, and this is the point when I actually encourage you to pull out your phones and ignore me. You can go to slido.com, enter the code SLACK. We are in the Pathfinder room, and submit your questions. We'll be reading them off at the end and answering them on stage. Cool. Here we go. We're going to dive in. So 89% of companies are now going to expect to compete mostly on the basis of customer experience. We know that customer centricity is a new competitive advantage, and in today's information age, it's the companies that create the best and the fastest and the most reliable experience for their customers that are going to win. But incredible customer service is not easy to deliver, and a 100-year-old company like Nordstrom, they haven't maintained a reputation for impeccable service by accident. So what makes good customer service? Great customer service teams are going to solve customer issues as quickly and as accurately as possible. And when things go really wrong, they escalate this to the people who have the power to fix it. They realize that customers have jobs to do and lives to get back to, so they do their best to allow customers to help themselves. They create competent support staff while running an efficient operation, and if they get it really right, they improve long-term customer experience by bringing feedback to the appropriate teams. Did I forget to click through this? Maybe I did. You know what? All this stuff is like, just remember what I said. Look at this. It appears. Oh, it's beautiful. So good. All right, the role of customer service is changing. So today's customer service is going to go far beyond the traditional telephone support agent. Customers now have more channels through which to communicate with the company, such as email, web, text message, and social media. And all these contact methods and forms make it difficult to quickly support your customers when your support queues are constantly growing. And with your information living in different tools or different knowledge bases, oh man, I just clicked back. I'm sorry, I'm such a wreck. You guys deserve somebody better than me. This is what you get. With your information living in different tools or knowledge bases, or with certain specialists, your agents struggle to find the right answers quickly when they need them. That's this one. All right. So to top it all off, your customers not only want a fast and accurate response, but they're also going to want responses from a human and not a robot, and I think that all of us do. It's a tall order for your support teams. This is an awful lot to handle. It's knowledge, expectations, speed, and accuracy. But having the right internal teams help you build better products and services can help you get there. So customer service teams are also challenged to improve the long-term customer experience by sharing the right feedback from your customers with the right people within your company. How can your organization then provide a faster response time to your customers while increasing the accuracy of their answers and simultaneously maintaining a human touch? Well, Slack. It's going to bring everyone in your company together with a common goal, which is serving the customer. Slack is going to supercharge your customer service organization. It's going to help you create an adaptive team. You're able to create a single source of truth and effective triage systems. This is really critical for globally distributed teams. Team and department channels, whoa, we are having some slide fun here. I'm so sorry. Team and department channels are going to bring the right people together to address really complex customer problems. So management channels are actually going to allow specialists to quickly and accurately spot trends across an organization and to marshal the right resources to swarm on an issue. Slack enables knowledge sharing. Like most businesses, our product at Slack changes really quickly, and we have to make sure that our teams are up to date, that they have the most accurate information at their fingertips right when they need it. So we enable knowledge sharing in our organization by sharing all of our important updates right in Slack. What this does, it helps us build a searchable archive so that team members can use this to self-serve. They can always just pop open the search widget, look at what search for what they're looking for, find it, and use that. It's also best practice, though, to keep information in some sort of more static knowledge system. So something where you can write some longer form information, people can access it. Ideally, something you can also bring into Slack and index it there as well. Slack also allows your teams to remove roadblocks. So you're not always going to find what you need by searching Slack, accessing your knowledge base, and this is one of the roadblocks that I see my team encounter a lot. People end up asking around, finding a manager who might know their question. But what you can do is create dedicated channels where your subject matter experts can interact with customer service teams. This will remove your roadblocks. It'll allow them to find the answers that they need faster. And with fewer complexities to navigate, your frontline employees are going to be freed up to be themselves with your customers. Customer service teams, finally, to kind of round this out, are also best suited to improving the end-to-end experience for your customers over time. So what we want to think about here is closing that feedback loop. What are you hearing from your customers, and how are you bringing that back into your company? So bringing tickets, live chats, social media posts into Slack, it's going to make it that much easier for your customer service teams to share the right feedback with the right teams within your company. And at Slack, what we do is we share relevant customer feedback in product channels. So for example, when we were back building the Threads feature, it was really critical that we compiled all the feedback that we were getting from all of you, our customers, about how it was working to inform how we were taking the direction of the product. So we shared tickets directly with the product management team. We also share it with the engineering team when folks run into problems. And that way people can see exactly what's going on and follow up. We also share tickets directly with account teams. So for those of you who work with our customer success and sales team, if you write in and it's something they need to know about, we'll share the ticket directly with them so they can see exactly what's going on. This allows your account team to, for example, let's just say that we see a few tickets from your company about channels. People are having a hard time finding channels. What we can do then is say, like, hey, it seems like this company might not have a great channel naming strategy. Then your account team can come in and help you fix that. So one of the biggest challenges that large customer service organizations face is going to be scalability. And that's not just like the number of people or the number of tickets or the number of customers, but it's keeping everybody on the same page. It's keeping everybody aligned when everybody is scattered all over the world doing a lot of different things with a lot of different managers in a lot of different offices. So how do you handle that? And as I mentioned earlier, as you'd expect from a company that has really set the bar for customer experience, Nordstrom has put a lot of thought into innovating around this space to better meet the needs of its customers. So with that, I'm going to invite China Scroggins on stage. She's going to talk with us about how Nordstrom is using Slack to power their customer service organization. Yay! It's China. China, I'm so glad to see you. This is so great. This is my dream panel, by the way. It was like, you're doing a customer service thing. Who do you want? I'm like, Nordstrom and Zendesk. Obviously, the retail brand that is synonymous with support. So thank you so much. Introduce yourself, please.
Hi, I'm China Scroggins. I am a program manager for Nordstrom. Just a little bit about my journey. I began actually in the stores, the brick and mortar Nordstrom store in Houston at the Galleria. But once Hotlick was acquired by Nordstrom in 2011, I hopped out to LA and began supporting on our frontline customer care team and now oversee the entire technology strategy for our organization.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I know that you're now with the Nordstrom Rack and Hotlick division, and one thing that was really interesting for me to find out is, like, how does this fit within the Nordstrom family? And congratulations We have a slide. It's there.
It's beautiful. So this is a visual articulation of how we service our customers. I love this visual because not a lot of folks know what's under the Nordstrom umbrella. So you have Nordstrom, brick and mortar store. You have Nordstrom Rack, brick and mortar. Then you have Nordstrom.com. That's our full price online business. And then Nordstrom Rack, Hotlook.com, which is our off-price online. And then somewhere in the middle is this awesome thing called Trunk Club, which is powered by Nordstrom and Nordstrom.com.
Okay, so you mentioned earlier that Hotlook was acquired by Nordstrom in 2011. And I imagine that, overall that had to be a huge change. But from your standpoint, servicing customers, that had to be quite a transition. So what were some of the challenges that you faced as you brought the Hotlook brand in-house?
Quite a challenge indeed. So one of our main goals, right, is to always deliver and continue to deliver this standard of excellence and customer service that our customers have come to know and be accustomed to. And then also, how does Hotlook fit into the Nordstrom family, keeping our culture, but certainly making sure that we don't impact our customers. So a couple of challenges I think that stood out the most was obviously scalability. How do we do things quickly and efficiently, but also service alignment? How do we make sure that we disseminate the right information around service no matter where folks are? So to do that, we thought of this great strategy and concept called customer service engineering. It's a really fancy way of saying how do we use technology to really power our agents, our store employees, our customers to receive the best service, to provide the best service in a digitally enabled world. So in order to do that, under that umbrella, you'll first have what we like to call Nordstrom Rack Store Immersion. And that really is helping our team in green feel like in the store that they have a partner at headquarters that's helping them to do a really great job for that customer in store. And then you have business partner collaboration. For me, this is the idea that there's no decision that should be made on behalf of the customer, whether it has to do with site updates, my account, checkout issues, anything around mobile or web, where that voice of the customer is not first and foremost. And then you have tool optimization. We just need to make sure that we have the right tools in front of our employees. They need to be able to work quickly, efficiently, speak to each other, and get back to servicing our customer. And then lastly is internal core communication. We needed a fun, easy way to speak to one another and to get our point across.
So it sounds to me like core communications is the part where we come into play. So can you tell us a little bit more about the core communications piece?
Sure.
I'm sorry, I am just such a disaster at this clicker today. So this diagram is great. Sorry. Core communications. Let's talk about that. I hear it's amazing.
So with our workforce, we actually have about 80% combined workforce across about 3 states and also in Jamaica and very soon to come in Colombia, which would be amazing. So as far as core communication, what we looked at is how can we start off our way of speaking to one another, no matter where you are in our environment, have the same service strategy, have the same idea about how we speak to our customers, no matter where you are. And for me, that meant let's create this one care experience. And for Slack, that means #OneCare. And it's the idea that whenever you see that, that means however you articulate it, wherever you are, make sure that you're getting this sentiment across to the customer in your way. Use your best judgment, but certainly come back to this service strategy.
And you mentioned that a lot of your team is outsourced. So I think 80% of your team is now a remote workforce?
Yes, so 80% is combined workforce between Nordstrom.com and NRHL, but 35% of our employees work from home across the 3 states. So we have our HQ employees, like I said, then we have Jamaica, and then soon to come Colombia. So that's how we distributed and made sure we had that one care experience.
So one thing that you mentioned, I think, is creating channels around both teams and departments. And there's something also about emoji flags, I think.
Absolutely. After creating that department and team-based channel in Slack, we wanted to make sure that we had centralized emojis that our agents use as soon as they were onboarded to get us through and help us understand exactly where they are.
Cool. How exactly, let's let's take a step back. Obviously, you've brought in a lot of people in Jamaica. You're about to bring in some people in Colombia. How do you bring agents on board? How do you get them into the system, not only into Slack, but into your overall system and into the company?
Yeah, so it's interesting. We pretty much have the same onboarding experience, but we wanted to make sure that no matter where you were, you had something that helped you to stand out, right? And so one of the ways that OneCare helped us, I would love to give an example just around our recent change in our return policy. We were able to roll out a policy that changes from accepting returns from 90 days to 45 days. And being able to use those team channels and understand where each agent was not only helped us to be able to disseminate that training information and say, this is where you are, this is how you best receive information. And so we got it to them quickly, but also we're able to audit those team channels and say, where are the gaps here? How can we truly support what you're saying to the customer in the best way? Whether it's too much leniency, maybe not enough. And so using those emojis actually helped us to say, what's the best run book to get them to where they need to be?
Right.
Yeah.
I think one of the challenges that I face quite a bit is making sure that no matter where a customer is and no matter where the agent is who's helping them, that we're giving those customers a uniform experience, and that always seems to happen at the supervisor level. So, as you look at more of your global expansion and working with folks, as you grow that team, how are you and your supervisors working on ensuring a consistent experience for all your customers?
Yeah, so we were really excited last year to start using the Slack calls for one-on-ones. I think it was the most genius idea we could have come up with. If you can imagine having 70% of your team as a supervisor working from home, the one thing that they'll feel is kind of excluded. Where's my supervisor? How do I get that face-to-face interaction? And so what we did was just make sure that every supervisor envelops into their daily routine that one-on-one Slack call to get themselves in front of that agent and to make sure that they can role play, they can have great conversations about how to service the customer, and that they still feel included in the workforce.
That's great. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. So we talked a little bit about team and department channels, but you wanted to show us a little bit about one of your favorite use cases. Oh, I mentioned this a little bit earlier, but let's look at use cases of how you onboard folks in different countries.
Yeah, so here's a great example. Our lovely agent Philip is in Jamaica, just one of my favorite places to visit, by the way. But in this example, it just shows how we mandate that they have their country Slack emoji there. What's great is, in a recent example, let's say where there's a tech issue in Jamaica, we have a completely different connectivity setup there. So once we see that someone like Philip has a tech issue, knowing right away that they're in Jamaica, we institute a different set of SLAs for them. We're able to completely just run a different run book and get them the help that they need quicker, so they're back on the phone with that customer they're speaking to.
It's cool. There's another one we wanted to talk about. So cross-functional collaboration. We talked about core communication earlier, but now we're talking about working across teams. So when we roll back to the customer service engineering concept, what is this screenshot showing us?
So this screenshot is showing our one price channel in Slack. So this was initiative, really a partnership between Nordstrom and NRHL. Which was just to align pricing across our Nordstrom Rack stores and Nordstrom Rack online. And so inside of this channel, you have literally everyone from inception to stakeholders to those collaborators that made this all happen. And so we were able to kick off the project in this channel, really use Confluence as a way to highlight what's happening in the project. So for stakeholders who don't want to really be in the day-to-day of Slack and understand what's happening in real time, they can easily click that and truly understand, is this project red, green, or yellow right now, which was super helpful. So as we went live, we actually had an issue where we accidentally sold things for 1 cent. And as you can imagine, customers loved it.
Oh, yeah.
But we went red. And so what was great about this is because of its integration with Snow, but also because we had collaborators from in.com, the Nordstrom team, the NRHL team, even Snow teams, our engineers, everyone at the same time saw what happened. And so we really were able to triage it, act on it quickly, and really get back to our customers what we'd like for them to be able to see on our site. So that was great.
Did you sell some good stuff for 1 cent?
We did. We did. And you know what? We let him have it anyway.
Of
Just
course.
the Nordstrom way.
It's the Nordstrom way.
Yeah.
I would expect nothing else.
Absolutely.
All right, so we talked about some great use cases. We talked about some great deals. But what's the impact you've seen on your business?
So with Slack, we've really been able to optimize site-wide escalations, including cross-business functionality, as we talked about. We were able to digitally reduce our average handle time and certainly increase our customer satisfaction. In the last year, we've really reduced our time to resolve by about 3%. We've reduced our average handle time for voice by 50 seconds, but also with chat by 17 seconds. On average, and it doesn't sound like a lot when you say things in seconds, but if you can imagine that we receive anywhere between 650 to 700 calls a day, as well as 600 chats, that can save us about 12 and a half hours per day, and then about 3,250 hours per year. So finally, we were able to increase our customer satisfaction, which, as you know, service is our number one. So this was our North Star. How can we really get better at satisfying our customers? So since our scale is based on a 5-point rating scale, our customers have the opportunity, as many of you know, to survey us at the end of every contact. And so last year, we were able to increase from a 3.13 CSAT to a 4.43. And since our goal is 4.25, Slack has helped us really blow that out of the water.
Good job.
It's been awesome. Thanks.
All right, let's talk a little bit about what is next for Nordstrom and for your team.
Yeah, so I'm excited to partner with Slack in the coming year, really to do two things. I would say first, really envelop ourselves in the knowledge base. Our agents are hungry for more knowledge inside of that platform. It's the quickest one for them. It's the one where they can feel like they have a community and really understand how can I get the best information in this one tool and get back to my customer. So we'll look at knowledge base and see how we can make that great for our employees. But also looking at ticketing and reporting. How can we get more information, whether it's from the customer or from our employees, to be able to make better decisions for our customer and for our employees as well.
That's great. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
And I have good news for everybody. Next up, we have John Brummel. He's the Senior Manager of Premium Support at Zendesk. He's going to talk about how they take customer service to the next level using Slack, and he's going to take over the clicker and might be better at using it than I am.
Oh, man. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hey.
Good to see you. Oh, man. I guess it's the big button.
It's the big one.
Indeed.
I have no excuse.
That's okay. Brand new to this. It's good to see you guys. Thanks so much for coming out today. We just wanted to share a little bit about kind of what we're doing at Zendesk with Slack and how it's really, really massively leveled up our game and how we're able to not only serve our customers better, but also create a better and more cohesive team internally. I run the Premier Support team at Zendesk, and we were one of the early adopters in Slack. As we first were trying it out, we kind of got in on the early days. There were a couple little tiny teams playing around with it, and we snuck our way in as we were formally evaluating it, because one of the parts of our team is we always want to be ahead of the curve and always playing with the next thing or figuring out how to optimize our workflow so we can be agile and help get the rest of the team up. And one of our biggest challenges is how do we provide that white glove service to some of our top customers? So really the big challenge is, how do you come together as a global team? We have people all over the country. We've got offices in Dublin, London, Manila, Madison, Montpellier, Copenhagen. And as the company grows, we've not only scattered across so many different offices around the globe, but we also have multiple products. And each team has, as you well are acquainted with, you have product teams, engineering, development, sales, success, advocacy in multiple places across the globe. And as we expand, it gets harder and harder to come together and harder to create those warm, fuzzy human connections and those relationships that you really leverage and you need when things go south. So what we really needed was a robust platform to keep us all together and talking. So I don't know if you guys know, but there's this little thing out there. It's called Slack. That's it. Sorry. And man, it's really helped us level up our game. We had kind of an interesting growth pattern. As we started playing with this early on, our engineering and our advocacy teams, we were all in IRC channels and we were chatting away and it was great and it worked pretty nice, but as some of you may be aware, the learning curve is rather steep and challenging. We played around with a lot of different stuff. Advocacy, we started using Campfire. And we got a little bit of our friends in success to start playing with that. But then all of a sudden we said, hey, we need a tool. Let's all get together. We all started using FlowDoc, but then sales and success kind of went over to Google Hangouts and chat. And all of a sudden, when I started with Zendesk, I found myself having to check 5, 6, 7 different tools. Email, this, oh my God. Made me want to cry. So finally, we came together and we had some alignment. And one of the biggest trends I've seen in several different sessions has been over and over, people talking about, you have to get everybody in one house. You have to get them into the big tent. And I know this firsthand as we were struggling with these tools. Fortunately, we had some alignment at Altitude, and we had a new CIO. And if any of my friends in sales and success are in the audience, I apologize. Please don't hate me. But we actually had to shut off a few of these tools in order to get everybody into the big tent. But once we did, man, it was exciting. We really put our usage into about 3 big buckets here. Like you've heard many different people, we've got topics, we've got teams, we've got different channels, dedicated not only around product areas, but also sometimes around offices, around culture, all kinds of really cool things, which can be overwhelming if, as Allie and I were talking, I'm a member of far too many channels. But the really interesting stuff, which we thought we might highlight and share with you here today, was what do we do with integrations and also some really interesting stuff we do around external teams. Here's a few of the interesting things that we're playing with. I did it right there. See? See?
It's not just me.
That's right.
Yeah, thank you.
Testify.
Yeah.
We had a whole session on incident management, so I won't bore you guys with the details of that. We kind of pulled it out, but I did want to share with you, man, we are heavily leveraging the API, and that's one of the things I love best about Slack is that it's almost like an API-first platform, and that's the same thing we do at Zendesk. With all of our products, it's really an API-first, so you can build and do whatever the heck you need. When we have a service incident, we do all kinds of crazy stuff. We fire up a dedicated Slack channel. It spits that out to the relevant go-to-market team so everybody has a heads up. It will actually fire off PagerDuty as well as invite those people that are on call into the channel. So when something happens, bang, within seconds, we have a live channel. Everyone's there, spins up a Google Doc, so we have stuff, all kinds of things. Spins up a Zoom so we can swarm together. All kinds of really exciting things that leverage that API. But when we talk about specific integrations, this is something one of our engineering teams whipped up. It's called Sharebert. It's really cool. She was talking about how Slack can be such a great repository of information. And it really is. It's my first go-to. I look around. Has anybody done this, that? Nope. All right, off to the knowledge base. What we do, though, is when we're in the context of troubleshooting an issue or working on something, if you find something that hasn't been documented before, we're like, oh, man, this is great. Somebody should write this up. Have you guys ever had that situation where everybody goes, man, somebody should write that up? Yeah, me too. So one of the cool things we do is we actually flag it with a little React-G, and then the next morning they run a script. It looks for any posts that have that reaction, and then we create a ticket in our Zendesk instance, and that's owned by our KCS team, our knowledge management team. And then they figure out, okay, let's figure out the stuff, and you can actually see it's kind of grayed out there. Sorry, top secret. But we gather in, as you create that, what are the most important parts of that? What's the gist of it? What's the summary? What are the actionable or most prescient items? And that's included in the ticket along with a link to the Slack thread. So when one of our contributors or somebody on our knowledge team comes back, they go, oh, I get it, here's this. And they can talk to the relevant people and then document it accordingly so we can convert asynchronously some of these most important things that are evergreen topics that will come up over and over again into either internal knowledge or public-facing stuff for customers so we can help them before they even have to reach out. Our Premier support team, oh boy, do we use Slack pretty heavily. Even back before we were a Slack customer with some of the other products, we started using targets in Zendesk to create a way for us to have relevant information around our customers when a new support instance came in or support request came in. The most important thing is when you get something from one of our top customers, usually, sometimes it's say, hey, how do you do this? Often it's, oh my God, this is on fire, help me, everyone's crying. That first response, that first set of eyes, that first engagement is absolutely critical. And what we do is we post to our Slack channel, which we staff, and there's a lot of information around there about what's it about, what's the customer, what's the business impact. These are all custom fields in our ticket, but we also use the React to show, hey, I'm looking at it, I'm working on it, it's done. Seems really dumb, but honestly, that little bit of information cuts down on so much confusion. We also internally do stuff like we'll get into the thread and we'll start swarming around and everybody on deck, all right, everybody come in. If we're not even, if it's still confusing, we'll spin up a Zoom right there from the Slack channel, and then bang, everybody hops on, somebody has a direction, one owner, one issue, go forth. It's really cool, and it's massively leveled up our game and our ability to help our customers. We use alerting in the Premier team, as well as our operations, as I'm sure all of you guys do. But we also do some monitoring around our Premier customers, and we set up some things so we can proactively engage our customers, hopefully before they even know there's an issue. So this will find some, you can see here, somebody's having some issues that day. At the end, my friend Valeria, we figured out, aha, you didn't whitelist some stuff. But we spun up a little thread, swarmed around it, and then we were able to create a ticket to the customer and send it to them before they even reached out to us. So that's a really cool thing. Instead of being like, why is this broke? We can be like, hey, Bob, this thing's going weird on Tuesday at 4 o'clock from this thing. Might want to check it out. So it's actually really nice, and it's leveled up our game to be able to help the customers before they realize they have an issue. And finally, one of the interesting things our developer support team did was they spun up their own Slack instance. And rather than a single channel, we have multiple channels that the developers can all zig and zag and talk about different issues, different challenges they have, and they can do some peer coaching, some interaction with one another. But what's really interesting too is our product managers and some of our developers can hop in here, and you can see on the right side, they're talking, swarming about things, they say like, wow, that's kind of cool, we hadn't thought about that. Let's hop on a Zoom tomorrow, and let's all talk about it and put our heads together, because that might be pretty slick. One other really cool thing that just came out in Zendesk recently, it's, I believe, still in the beta stage, but it's called Side Conversations. And we have a really neat interaction with Slack. I'm begging my team internally to turn it on. It's really slick. So as you're in the context of, we've actually built other integrations that literally did this before, but it was manually through the API. But now, natively, you can actually, in the context of a ticket, hit a little button. It's going to send it over to a Slack channel. And then your team can swarm around it, talk about it. And the neat part is everything that happens in that side conversation, in that thread, if you will, comes back into Zendesk onto a side panel. So now you have your main interaction with the customer, but you have a side conversation with all the information from your team. So as the ticket maybe follows the globe, everyone has full insight into everything going on with that. As we're looking at the road ahead, a lot of really cool stuff. So much I could spend the rest of the time talking, but she's going to grab this out of my hand. So
no, you can keep it.
What we're looking, but really what I'm looking to do, particularly in the next several months here, is I want to take the load off of my agents. I really believe that a brain is for solving problems, and a warm heart is for having a conversation, helping people. Filing a report at the end of the week, doing this and doing all this other stuff is tedious, and none of us want that. And the beauty of Slack has really been in the little interactions. When I'm having a one-on-one with my teammate, and we're going to move our one-on-one, instead of just like he gets this Google Calendar invite that says, this has been deleted, see you next week, I can reach out. I can be like, hey, man, so stuff came up. Are you cool for Friday? Wink, emoji, throw a few GIFs back and forth. If you want to have the GIF argument, we can yell at each other after the thing. But honestly, it's allowed me to take an asynchronous or even a multi-continental experience and put the warm human interaction back into it. And that's the hardest part. Because when you build those relationships, when you build that trust and that connection between you and a colleague, it's the little bits that add up. So when the stuff hits the fan, you have each other's back, you can instantly engage, and you know each other, you have a relationship. And it massively speeds up our ability to help out customers, as well as internally level things up. So we're going to start leveraging the API to do our weekly reviews for ticket ownership. You hit a button, and then all of a sudden, bang, I'm now the owner of this ticket, this thing has gone over here. Or other stuff where somebody hits a thing, it'll page my team if somebody really needs some help on an issue. All kinds of stuff we're looking ahead, and then particularly around voice of the customer. How do we capture that stuff like she was talking about and get it to our product teams? Ultimately, at the end of the day, it's just how do we get the conversation going and make our world a little smaller when we're spread all over the planet? Well, thank you.
That was great. Thank you. Have a seat. Good luck to me. We're back here. All right. But again, that was awesome. Thank you so much. This is why you're my dream panel. And we actually do have time for questions. You can go to, no. I thought we had another slide with Slido in here. Is it after this one? Nope. All right. So it was, there it is. It's not showing here. Haha. So Slido, it is a town in Ireland. It is a vendor downstairs, and it is zapping your phone right now. I am going to pick up this nice, handy iPad. And let's see here. China, what's your favorite number?
4.
So the fourth question on the iPad is, this is super handy. China mentioned cross-functional team communication. What teams do you engage with the most in Slack?
Great question. I think the teams that we engage with the most truly depend on what part of the business we're trying to advance at the time. I will say, though, right now, the Game of Thrones channel is the most cross-functional thing I've ever seen. However, I would say with front end, right? So when we get that customer sentiment back, really the front end team is responsible for impacting that customer's experience on the site. And so for the most part, our projects really are with our front end engineers to truly work quickly on behalf of the customer to change their experience day to day.
Cool. John, I got one for you.
Uh-oh.
Zendesk.
And that's all the time sorry.
Yeah, sorry, we're done. No. You have 4 minutes, so. Zendesk and Slack have shared examples of sharing tickets with sales teams. Can you talk more about how you do that at Zendesk, and how's the response from sales been?
Oh, wow. I'm sorry, what was the last portion?
How does sales feel about it? Do they like this?
Oh, it depends on the person and the day. So we have a very interesting interaction. From my world on the Premier side, we actually have a really tight relationship with our core team for success, advocacy, and sales. And we do a mini sync on our clients that we're focused on every couple of weeks. And also constantly we have a dedicated Slack channel where we will post, hey, what's going on, a heads up on things and stuff. But typically, informally for years, even outside of the Premier team, when there is a possible issue, or it could even be an opportunity, like, hey, these guys aren't using this thing over here, and man, this would solve so many of their challenges. You really might want to give them a call or a shout out. That's massively leveled up our game. And we will CC them in the ticket, but a lot of our friends in sales and success don't sometimes read us. So Slack has been amazing because we can actually send it directly to them, or we can be swarm around a thing, we can tag them with an @mention and then pop them right into thread so they have the full context. But as we then connect them later with the sales team, it gives them insight into what's going on with that customer. So sometimes it'll be very formal in our channels around a particular client, but a lot of times it's very one-on-one. I'll just reach out to that person in a side channel, either for help sometimes, but also sometimes for an opportunity to say, like, hey, here's a way they could grow and an opportunity.
All right, Trina, I'm not going to ask your favorite number because I'm just going to pick one this time.
Nice, let's do it.
So how do you help agents manage their time and attention in Slack? A lot of agents in this person's organization say that they have too many Slack channels to follow.
Yeah, we've actually run into that too. I think it's really just about understanding the agent's needs and truly understanding that their journey is not going to stay the same. So there's times in which the agent would love to be communicated with a whole lot more. And there's times where we have to roll it back and archive those channels. So that's my favorite thing to do. Is really talk to management and say, hey, at this point, this channel is no longer really providing any value to the customer experience, internal customer or external. Let's archive it, and then let's let them tell us, what they need next.
Cool. There's one thing that we should absolutely do better, and we don't, but we could, which is, and I recommend everybody do this, there's a setting to hide all channels without new messages in them, and it turns your sidebar into this sort of peaceful vista of only the new stuff and nothing else. So that helps people as well.
Thank you.
Yeah. So let's swing it on back to John. Here it was. John,
Yeah.
this is another question from Anonymous. The best question answer of this session. You're great. Is your ticketing system integrated with Slack? And if not, how do you reduce steps?
Is our personal ticketing system integrated with Slack?
That is my interpretation. I'm
Okay.
guessing, is your Zendesk integrated with Slack?
Oh boy, integrated, yes. By default, no, because we have such a so it's not every single ticket is created and then populates over to Slack. We would go insane because it can go anywhere from 100 ticket up to, if there's something crazy going on, we could get multiple hundreds of tickets within an hour span, and that's kind of like drinking from a fire hose, which is less than pleasurable. So what we tend to do typically is with Slack, we're using it very intentionally for subsets of customers, particularly for the Premier context, as well as there are a few other edge cases around alerting and other stuff that we will actually send a notification. Maybe a certain amount of tickets has hit a threshold of X, and then we will send it to a manager channel so they can get a heads up. But for the default, every ticket created, I believe once you hit a certain scale, that then becomes less useful. For us, at least.
Yeah, I can see that. Okay, we're going to round it off with one more for China emoji because it's fun. You mentioned custom emojis to flag messages. What are some of the emojis you use and how are they used?
Yeah, so besides the country Slack emojis, we also use a building emoji, and that identifies any supervisor or manager to say they're at HQ. Mm-hmm. Then we also use the home emoji to say that's our work from home and remote team. So those are our most popular ones. Yeah.
Great. Thank you guys so much for being up here with me. I really appreciate it. Thank all of you for coming. We are almost rounded up with Frontiers. Really grateful to have you here. Thank you.